3 years in, Henry called me a defective omega, too dull, too tame. I smiled. Let's divorce. The words hung in the air of our expensive penthouse apartment. Henry's green eyes widened, his alpha pheromones spiking with surprise. He probably expected me to cry or beg like I used to do during our first year together. But I was done with that version of myself. Excuse me? Henry set down his wine glass with a sharp clink. You want to divorce me? Kai, be reasonable. What omega walks away from an alpha like me? I kept my smile steady, even though my heart hammered against my ribs. This one does. We met at a charity gala 4 years ago. I was 22, fresh out of university, working as an assistant at an art gallery. Henry was 28, a successful investment banker with perfect hair and a perfect smile. When he approached me that night, every omega in the room stared with envy. He was handsome, wealthy, and he chose me. The courtship was a whirlwind. Expensive dinners, weekend trips to Paris, gifts that made my roommate squeal with excitement. Henry was attentive and charming. He told me I was different from other omegas, more genuine, more real. 6 months later, we were married in a ceremony that cost more than my parents made in 5 years. But reality settled in quickly after the honeymoon. Henry wanted a trophy omega who would smile pretty at business dinners and produce alpha heirs. He wanted someone who would wear designer clothes and never voice an opinion. He wanted someone who would purr at his touch and never question where he went or who he met. I tried to be that person. I really did. I quit my gallery job because Henry said it was beneath the spouse of someone in his position. I wore the clothes his stylist picked out. I smiled at his colleagues and learned to make conversation about stocks and market trends even though they bored me to tears. I decorated our home in the minimalist style he preferred, even though I missed color and warmth. But it was never enough. You're not affectionate enough, he would say. Other omegas know how to make their alphas feel desired. You're too quiet at parties. You make me look boring. Can't you try to be more exciting? More spontaneous? The criticism became constant background noise in our marriage. I started to believe him. Maybe I was defective. Maybe something was wrong with me. Maybe I should just try harder to be what he wanted. Then came last week. I found the messages on his phone by accident. He left it on the kitchen counter while he showered. A text notification popped up from someone named Chris. Last night was amazing. When can I see you again? My hands shook as I opened the message thread. Months of conversations. Flirty texts. Photos I would never be able to unsee. Plans to meet at hotels I recognized because Henry told me he was there for business conferences. When Henry came out of the bathroom, towel around his waist and hair dripping wet, I was sitting at the kitchen table with his phone in front of me. Kai, I can explain. Don't. My voice surprised me with its steadiness. Just tell me one thing. How long? He had the decency to look ashamed. 8 months. But it doesn't mean anything. You know how alphas are, we have needs. You're just not very responsive and I... So it's my fault you cheated? That's not what I'm saying. He ran a hand through his wet hair, frustration rolling off him in waves. You're a good person, Kai, but you're not exactly passionate. You're not exciting. I need more than what you can give me. Something cracked inside my chest, but it wasn't my heart breaking. It was something else. Something that had been building for 3 years finally breaking free. You're right, I said quietly. I can't give you what you need. Relief flooded his face. I'm glad you understand. We can work through this. I'll end things with Chris. We can go to counseling. No. I can't give you what you need because I shouldn't have to change who I am to make you happy. I shouldn't have to be less of myself to be enough for you. That was a week ago. I spent 7 days planning and preparing. I opened a secret bank account. I contacted a lawyer. I found a small apartment across town that I could afford with the money from my personal savings. I packed boxes while Henry was at work and moved them to a storage unit. And now, standing in our living room with divorce papers in my bag, I felt lighter than I had in years. You can't be serious about this, Henry said, standing up. His alpha presence tried to overwhelm me, to make me submit. Once upon a time, it would have worked. Not anymore. I'm completely serious. I pulled the envelope from my bag and set it on the coffee table. My lawyer will be in touch. I don't want anything except what's legally mine. You can have the apartment, the cars, all of it. Kai, wait. But I was already walking toward the door. I picked up my suitcase from where I had hidden it in the coat closet that morning. Goodbye, Henry. I closed the door on my old life and didn't look back. The apartment was tiny compared to the penthouse. 1 bedroom, a kitchen barely big enough for 2 people, and a living room that could fit a couch and maybe a small table. The building was old, with creaky floors and pipes that made strange noises at night. I loved it immediately. It's perfect, I told the landlady. A kind beta woman in her 60s named Mrs. Chan. She smiled warmly. It's not much, but it's quiet. Good neighbors. There's a coffee shop on the corner and a library 2 blocks away. A library. My heart did a little jump. I hadn't been to a library in 3 years. Henry said libraries were for people who couldn't afford to buy books. I signed the lease that afternoon and spent my first night on an air mattress, eating takeout noodles and planning my next steps. The divorce would take time, but my lawyer assured me it would be straightforward since I wasn't asking for much. The hard part was telling my parents. I called them the next morning, sitting cross-legged on my air mattress with terrible coffee from the shop downstairs. Divorced. My mother's voice cracked. But honey, why? Henry is such a good alpha. He provides for you. He cheated on me, Mom. Silence. Then my father's gruff voice came on the line. That bastard. Want me to drive up there and punch him? Despite everything, I laughed. No, Dad. I just want to move on. Are you okay? Do you need money? My mom again, worry saturating every word. I'm okay. Promise. I have savings and I'm going to find a job. We talked for another hour. They were worried, but supportive. My younger sister texted me immediately after. Finally! I never liked that guy. He had weird teeth. Henry did have slightly weird teeth. I smiled at my phone. Over the next 2 weeks, I slowly built my new life. I bought second-hand furniture from online marketplaces. I painted my bedroom walls a warm yellow that made me happy every time I walked in. I filled my tiny kitchen with mismatched dishes from thrift stores and actually enjoyed cooking again. And I started job hunting. My art history degree had been collecting dust for 3 years, but several galleries and museums were hiring. I updated my resume, practicing my interview answers in the mirror like I was preparing for a performance. The rejections came first. We need someone with recent experience. You've been out of the field too long. We're looking for someone younger. But I kept trying. On a rainy Tuesday afternoon, I had an interview at a small contemporary art gallery in the downtown arts district, the Reverie Gallery. The owner was a beta named Marcus Torres who wore paint-splattered jeans and had silver streaks in his black hair. Tell me about this gap in your employment, Marcus said, leaning back in his chair. I could have lied, made up something professional. But something about Marcus's kind eyes made me want to tell the truth. I got married to someone who didn't want me to work. It took me 3 years to realize I was disappearing into what he wanted me to be instead of being myself. So I left. Marcus studied me for a long moment. That takes courage. Or stupidity. I tried to smile. My ex-husband would say it's stupidity. Your ex-husband sounds like an idiot. Marcus stood up and held out his hand. When can you start? I blinked. You're offering me the job? I need someone who understands that art is about finding yourself, not losing yourself. I think you get that now. Plus, your references from before you got married are glowing. Your old boss said you had a real eye for emerging artists. I shook his hand, fighting back tears. I can start Monday. Walking home in the rain, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. The job at Reverie Gallery was everything I didn't know I needed. Marcus was easygoing and trusted my judgment. The other employees were friendly. I spent my days surrounded by color and creativity and conversations about things that mattered to me. I was reorganizing the storage room on my 3rd week when someone knocked on the door. We're closed for installation, I called out. We reopen Thursday. The knocking continued. Sighing, I wiped dust from my hands and headed to the front. Through the glass door, I could see a tall figure in an expensive coat, rain dripping from dark hair. My stomach dropped. Henry. I almost didn't open the door, but curiosity won. I unlocked it but didn't invite him in. What do you want? He looked different, tired. The usual confidence in his posture was gone. I needed to see you. You won't answer my calls. Because we have nothing to talk about. Let the lawyers handle it. Kai, please. I made a mistake. I miss you. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You miss what I did for you. You don't miss me. That's not true. Henry, go home. Move on. I have. His eyes flickered with something. Anger? Hurt? I couldn't tell anymore. Once I could read his every expression. You think you can just start over? You're an omega, Kai. You need an alpha. No, I said firmly. I need to be happy. And I never was with you. I closed the door in his face and locked it. My hands were shaking. Through the glass, I watched him stand there for a moment before finally walking away. Marcus appeared from the back room. Ex-husband. Yeah. He seems charming. I snorted. He used to be. Or maybe I just wanted to believe he was. Marcus squeezed my shoulder gently. You did good sending him away. Go home early today. I'll finish here. That night, I took a long bath in my tiny bathroom and thought about everything that had changed. I wasn't the same Omega who married Henry 4 years ago. I wasn't even the same Omega who asked for a divorce a month ago. I was becoming someone new, someone stronger, and I liked her. 2 months after the divorce papers were served, my life had settled into a comfortable routine. Wake up, coffee from the corner shop, work at the gallery, evening walks through the neighborhood, cooking dinner in my tiny kitchen. It was simple and quiet and mine. Then Adrian Winters walked into the gallery. It was a Thursday afternoon, slow and peaceful. I was writing descriptions for our new exhibition when the door chimed. I looked up and forgot how to breathe. He was tall, probably 6'3", with black hair that fell messily over his forehead and sharp cheekbones that could cut glass. He wore a leather jacket over a simple white shirt and moved with the kind of easy confidence that came from someone comfortable in their own skin. But it was his eyes that caught me, deep brown, almost black, and intense in a way that made me feel seen. Also, he was an alpha. I could tell immediately from his scent. Cedar and rain and something wild. My omega instincts, dormant for months, suddenly woke up and paid attention. I firmly told them to go back to sleep. Can I help you? I managed to sound professional. He smiled, and it transformed his entire face from intimidating to approachable. I hope so. I'm looking for Marcus Torres. He's at lunch. Can I take a message? Actually, I'm supposed to meet with him about displaying my work. I'm a bit early. He extended his hand. Adrian Winters. I shook his hand, trying to ignore how warm it was. Kai Nakamura. I'm the gallery assistant and curator. Recognition flashed in his eyes. You're the one who put together the Emerging Artists Showcase last month. Marcus sent me the catalog. Your eye is impressive. Heat crept up my neck. Thank you. What kind of work do you do? Mixed media. Sculptures mostly. I work with recycled materials, metal, wood, glass. Things other people throw away. Creating beauty from what others discard, I said thoughtfully. I'd love to see your portfolio. Adrian pulled out his phone and showed me photos of his work. Each piece was stunning, complex sculptures that seemed to tell stories. A phoenix rising from computer parts and broken mirrors. A human heart made from old keys and clock gears. A forest scene constructed from shattered glass and twisted metal. These are incredible, I breathed, swiping through the images. They're raw and vulnerable but also strong. There's hope in them. He looked at me with something like surprise. Most people say they're dark. They're honest. That's different from dark. We stood there for a moment, something unspoken passing between us. Then Marcus burst through the door, rain dripping from his jacket. Adrian, sorry I'm late. Traffic was insane. He noticed us standing close together and grinned. I see you've met Kai. Did he tell you he's the real talent behind this place? I rolled my eyes. Marcus, stop. It's true. Marcus clapped Adrian on the shoulder. Come on back. Let's talk about your show. They disappeared into Marcus's office, leaving me alone with my suddenly racing heart. I tried to focus on work, but my thoughts kept drifting to dark eyes and a smile that made my stomach flutter. Stop it, I told myself firmly. You just got out of a terrible marriage. The last thing you need is another alpha. But when Adrian emerged from Marcus's office an hour later, he headed straight for my desk. We're doing the show, he said, eyes bright with excitement. 8 weeks from now. That's wonderful. Congratulations. Marcus says you'll be working with me on the installation and curation. My heart skipped. I will. Is that okay? More than okay. Dangerous, but okay. Of course. It's part of my job. Adrian leaned against my desk, close enough that I could smell cedar and rain. Can I buy you coffee? To celebrate and also to start planning. Every sensible part of my brain screamed no. But the part of me that had been waking up over the past months, the part that wanted to live instead of just survive, said yes. Sure. There's a good place on the corner. The coffee shop was warm and busy, filled with the sound of steaming milk and quiet conversations. We grabbed a corner table, and Adrian ordered us both specialty lattes that came with tiny foam art on top. So, Adrian said, wrapping his hands around his cup, tell me about yourself, Kai Nakamura. Not much to tell. I work at the gallery. I like art. I'm recently divorced. His eyebrows rose slightly. Recently? 2 months since I asked. Still waiting for it to be final. I'm sorry. I shrugged. I'm not. It needed to happen. Bad marriage? Is there any other kind when one person tries to change everything about the other person? The words came out more bitter than I intended. Adrian was quiet for a moment. I was engaged once. 5 years ago. She wanted me to give up art, get a real job, be a normal alpha. I chose art. Do you regret it? Never. His eyes met mine. Life's too short to be someone you're not. We talked for 2 hours. About art and life and dreams. Adrian told me about growing up poor in a small town. How he started making sculptures from junk he found because he couldn't afford art supplies. How his alpha father hated that his son wanted to be an artist instead of working construction. How he left home at 18 with nothing but a backpack and determination. I told him about my marriage to Henry, about losing myself trying to be perfect, about the freedom and terror of starting over. You're brave, Adrian said when I finished. I don't feel brave. Most days I feel like I'm pretending to know what I'm doing. That's what bravery is. Doing it anyway even when you're scared. Walking back to the gallery, something had shifted between us. A connection that felt fragile and precious and terrifying. Over the next few weeks, Adrian came to the gallery almost every day. We worked on planning his exhibition, but our conversations wandered far beyond art. He told me about his tiny studio apartment that smelled like welding fuel. I told him about my painting experiments that looked like disasters. He made me laugh. Really laugh in a way I hadn't in years. One evening, we were working late at the gallery, finalizing the installation layout. Marcus had gone home hours ago. Rain pattered against the windows, and we had music playing softly in the background. What do you think about putting the Phoenix piece here? Adrian pointed to a spot near the entrance. Perfect. It's the strongest piece. It should be the first thing people see. He smiled at me, and my heart did that annoying flutter thing again. We were standing close, too close for just colleagues. I could see flecks of gold in his brown eyes. Kai, he said softly, can I ask you something? Sure. Am I imagining this? This thing between us? My breath caught. No, you're not imagining it. But you're not ready. It wasn't a question. Somehow he knew. I like you, I admitted. A lot. But I just got out of a marriage where I lost myself completely. I need time to figure out who I am without someone else defining me. Adrian nodded slowly. I understand. And I can wait. You don't have to. I want to. He reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. The gesture so gentle it made my chest ache. You're worth waiting for, Kai. Then my phone rang, shattering the moment. Henry's name flashed on the screen. I declined the call, but the spell was broken. Adrian stepped back, giving me space. He's still bothering you? He calls sometimes. I don't answer. Does he know where you live? No. And I want to keep it that way. Something protective flashed in Adrian's eyes, his alpha instincts responding to a threat. If he gives you trouble, I can handle Henry. I said it firmly because I needed to believe it. But as I locked up the gallery that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that my old life wasn't quite finished with me yet. The exhibition was 3 weeks away when everything went wrong. I arrived at the gallery one morning to find Marcus pacing in front of the building, phone pressed to his ear, face pale. What's wrong? I asked as he hung up. Water damage. The building next door had a pipe burst last night. Our storage room is flooded. Half of Adrian's pieces were in there. My stomach dropped. How bad? Bad. We spent the morning assessing the damage. 6 sculptures were destroyed. Their metal components rusted. Their wooden elements warped beyond repair. Adrian arrived within an hour, and the look on his face when he saw his ruined work made my heart break. I can recreate them, he said, voice tight. I have photos, I remember how I built them. But 3 weeks isn't enough time. Marcus ran a hand through his hair. We could postpone the exhibition. No. Adrian's jaw set with determination. We're not postponing. I'll figure it out. Over the next 2 weeks, Adrian practically lived at his studio. I brought him coffee and food, sat with him while he worked, helped where I could. He worked through nights, barely sleeping. I watched him push himself harder than was healthy, driven by a perfectionist streak I recognized because I used to have the same trait. Adrian, you need to rest, I said one night around 2 a.m. He had been welding for 6 hours straight. I'm fine. You're exhausted. Take a break. Kai, I can't. Yes, you can. I walked over and gently pulled the welding torch from his hands. 5 minutes. Sit down. Breathe. He collapsed onto an old couch in the corner of his studio, and I sat beside him. His hands were shaking from fatigue. I hate failing, he admitted quietly. My whole life, people told me I would fail, that art wasn't a real career, that I was wasting my potential. This exhibition is my biggest opportunity. I can't mess it up. You're not messing it up. Pipe burst. That's not your fault. But if I can't deliver, then we adjust. Art isn't about perfection, Adrian. It's about truth. Your work is truthful and beautiful, whether it's 8 pieces or 6 pieces or 3 pieces. He looked at me, something vulnerable in his eyes. When did you get so wise? I spent 3 years being told I was never good enough. I learned that the only person whose standards I need to meet are my own. Adrian reached out and took my hand, threading our fingers together. Thank you for being here. Where else would I be? We sat in comfortable silence, hands linked, until Adrian's breathing evened out and his head drooped against my shoulder. He fell asleep like that, exhausted and trusting. I should have woken him up, sent him home to his bed. Instead, I let him sleep, watching the rise and fall of his chest and admitting to myself what I had been trying to deny. I was falling for him. The realization should have scared me more than it did. The exhibition was 1 week away when Henry showed up at the gallery again. I was alone, working late on the final installation details. The knock on the door was sharp and insistent. Through the glass, I saw Henry's familiar silhouette. I considered ignoring him, but I was tired of running, tired of hiding. I opened the door but didn't step aside to let him in. What do you want, Henry? He looked rough. His usually perfect hair was messy. His tie loosened, dark circles under his eyes. I needed to see you. To talk. We have nothing to talk about. Please, Kai. Just 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, I let him in. We stood in the middle of the gallery, surrounded by Adrian's sculptures. The space between us filled with everything we never said during our marriage. I made mistakes, Henry started. I know that now. I took you for granted. I tried to change you when I should have appreciated who you were. I'm sorry. The apology hung in the air. 3 months ago, these words might have meant something. Now they felt empty. Why now, Henry? Why are you apologizing now? Because I miss you. Because I realized you were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I was too stupid to see it. You missed the idea of me, the version you tried to create. No, Yes. I cut him off firmly. You wanted an Omega who would be quiet and agreeable and make you look good. That's not me. That was never me. I was just pretending to be that person because I thought that's what love was. Henry's face hardened. And now you've found someone else? Is that what this is about? This isn't about anyone else. This is about me finally choosing myself. I saw you, Henry said, voice turning cold. With that Alpha, the artist. You think he's better than me? My blood ran cold. Have you been following me? I wanted to see how you were doing, to make sure you were okay. That's not your job anymore. We're getting divorced, Henry. You need to let me go. I can't. His voice cracked. I love you. No, you don't. You love control. You love having someone to mold. But you never loved me, Henry. If you had, you wouldn't have spent 3 years trying to change everything about me. The door chimed and Adrian walked in. He took in the scene immediately. Henry standing too close to me, my defensive posture, the tension thick enough to cut. Everything okay here? Adrian's voice was calm, but his body language screamed Alpha protection. Henry's eyes narrowed. This is a private conversation. Looks like it's over. Adrian moved to stand beside me, close enough that our shoulders touched. Kai, you ready to go? We have that meeting. We didn't have a meeting, but I was grateful for the excuse. Yeah, let's go. I grabbed my bag and headed for the door. Henry caught my arm. Kai, wait. Let her go. Adrian's voice was low and dangerous. Henry's hand dropped. You're making a mistake. I looked at him, this man I once thought I loved, and felt nothing but pity. The only mistake I made was staying as long as I did. Goodbye, Henry. Outside, the cool night air felt like relief. Adrian walked beside me silently until we were 2 blocks away. Thank you, I said finally. Are you okay? I am now. I stopped walking and turned to face him. How did you know to come? I didn't. I was just coming to walk you home like I always do. His expression softened. Was that your ex-husband? Yeah. He seems like a real piece of work. I laughed despite everything. That's putting it mildly. Adrian hesitated, then asked carefully, did he hurt you? When you were married? Not physically, but he was very good at making me feel small. At convincing me that I was the problem. Anger flashed in Adrian's eyes. You're not the problem, Kai. You never were. We stood on the sidewalk, streetlights casting long shadows, and I made a decision. I was tired of being afraid. Tired of letting my past control my future. Adrian. Yeah. I'm still figuring things out. I'm still healing. But I really like you, and I don't want to waste time being scared. His face lit up. Yeah. He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away. When I didn't, he cupped my face gently with both hands. Can I kiss you? Please. The kiss was soft and sweet and nothing like kissing Henry ever was. Adrian kissed me like I was precious, like he had all the time in the world, like I was worth the wait. When we pulled apart, I was breathless and smiling. Wow, I whispered. He grinned. Wow indeed. We walked back to my apartment holding hands, and for the first time in years, the future felt bright instead of terrifying. The night before the exhibition opening, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I ran through mental checklists. Did we hang the lighting right? Were the sculpture placements perfect? Would anyone actually come? At 3 a.m., I gave up and made tea. My phone buzzed with a message from Adrian. Can't sleep either. Want company? 20 minutes later, we were sitting on my tiny apartment balcony, wrapped in blankets, watching the city lights twinkle in the darkness. What if nobody comes? Adrian voiced the fear I hadn't wanted to admit. Then we'll drink all the wine ourselves and have a private party. He laughed. You always know what to say. I'm terrified too, you know. This is my first major exhibition as curator. If it fails, it won't fail. Adrian pulled me closer. We did good work. Your curation is brilliant. My sculptures are the best I've ever made. Whatever happens tomorrow, we should be proud. When did you become the optimistic one? Someone wise once told me that art is about truth, not perfection. I smiled against his shoulder. She sounds smart. She is. Also really cute when she's anxious. I elbowed him gently, and we sat in comfortable silence until the sky started to lighten with dawn. The gallery opened at 7 p.m. By 6:30, I was a nervous wreck. I had changed outfits 3 times, finally settling on black slacks and a deep blue silk shirt that Marcus said made my eyes pop. Adrian looked devastating in a fitted black suit, his usually messy hair styled back. "You look beautiful," he whispered, pressing a quick kiss to my temple. "You look pretty good yourself." Marcus clapped his hands together. "All right, team. Places everyone. Let's make some art history." The doors opened and people started filing in. Friends, critics, art collectors, curious strangers. Within an hour, the gallery was packed. I watched people move through the exhibition, saw their faces change as they connected with Adrian's work. The Phoenix sculpture, now positioned at the entrance, made several people cry. The heart made from keys and clock gears had a crowd around it all night. People understood what Adrian was saying through his art. That broken things could be beautiful, that endings could be beginnings, that there was always hope. I was chatting with a collector about the forest piece when I felt eyes on me. I turned and froze. Henry was standing by the door, champagne glass in hand, staring at me with an unreadable expression. What was he doing here? This was my space, my new life. He had no right to be here. Adrian appeared at my elbow, following my gaze. "Want me to have him removed?" "No. I'll handle it." I excused myself from the collector and walked over to Henry, chin high, shoulders back. I wasn't the same Omega he married. "You need to leave," I said quietly but firmly. "It's a public exhibition. I have as much right to be here as anyone." Henry took a sip of champagne. "Besides, I wanted to see what you've been doing with your time. This is impressive, Kai. You have real talent." Don't what? Don't act like you care about my work now. You spent 3 years telling me my interests didn't matter." Henry's jaw tightened. "I was wrong. About a lot of things. Can we talk? Privately?" "No. Please. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." Maybe it was the rush of the successful opening. Maybe it was confidence from Adrian's presence across the room. Maybe I just wanted closure. Whatever the reason, I agreed. We stepped outside into the cool evening air. The sounds of the gallery faded behind us. "What do you want, Henry?" He took a deep breath. "I want you to know that I'm dropping the divorce proceedings. I'm not going to fight you anymore. You can have whatever you want. Half of everything, the apartment, all of it. I just wanted to say I'm sorry and that I hope you're happy." I stared at him, searching for the trick, the manipulation. But he looked sincere. Tired and sad but sincere. "Thank you," I said carefully. "That means a lot. I mean it, Kai. You deserve to be happy. And that alpha in there, Adrian, he looks at you the way I should have looked at you. Like you're the most important person in the world." Something in my chest loosened. This was closure. Real closure. "I hope you find someone who makes you happy too, Henry. Someone who you don't need to change." He nodded. "Take care of yourself. You too." He walked away, disappearing into the night, and I felt like a chapter of my life had finally, truly closed. When I went back inside, Adrian was immediately at my side. "Everything okay?" "Yeah, it is." I took his hand. "He's letting the divorce go through without a fight. It's over." Adrian pulled me into a hug, and I melted into his warmth. "How do you feel?" "Free." We were interrupted by Marcus rushing over, phone in hand, face flushed with excitement. "You're never going to believe this. The art critic from the Times just posted her review online. Adrian, you're about to blow up." We crowded around Marcus's phone, reading the glowing review. Words like brilliant and revolutionary, and the next big voice in contemporary art, jumped out from the screen. By the end of the night, 3 of Adrian's pieces had sold for numbers that made my head spin. When the last guest left and we were cleaning up, Marcus pulled out a bottle of expensive champagne. "To new beginnings," he toasted. "To taking chances," Adrian added, looking at me. "To finding yourself," I finished. We clinked glasses and drank, and I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Later, walking home through the quiet streets, Adrian said, "I have to go to New York next month. A gallery there wants to do a show. Come with me? To New York? Yeah, we could make a long weekend of it. See the city, eat good food, maybe visit some museums." My old instinct was to say no, to play it safe. But I was done playing it safe. "I'd love to." Adrian spun me around and kissed me right there on the sidewalk, and I laughed against his lips, dizzy with happiness and possibility. When we reached my building, Adrian walked me to my door like he always did. "Want to come in?" I asked, then quickly added, "Just to talk. Or watch a movie. No pressure." He smiled. "I'd like that." We ended up on my couch, talking until dawn about dreams and fears and everything in between. Somewhere around 4 a.m., I fell asleep with my head on his shoulder. When I woke up, morning light was streaming through the windows, and Adrian was still there, still holding me. "Morning," he murmured, voice rough with sleep. "Morning." I didn't move, content to stay in this moment forever. "Kai, I'm falling in love with you. I thought you should know." My heart stuttered. It was too soon, too fast. Except it didn't feel too soon. Felt exactly right. "I'm falling in love with you too." He kissed me softly, sweetly, like a promise, like a beginning. The flight to New York was Adrian's first time on a plane. He gripped the armrests during takeoff, eyes wide, looking nothing like the confident alpha everyone else saw. "You okay?" I whispered, taking his hand. "Define okay." But he smiled and laced his fingers through mine. New York in October was magical. The leaves were turning gold and red. The air was crisp, and the city buzzed with energy. We stayed in a small hotel in Brooklyn, spent our days wandering through galleries and museums, ate pizza at midnight, and kissed on the Brooklyn Bridge while tourists streamed past us. Adrian's gallery meeting went well, incredibly well. They wanted to do a solo exhibition in 6 months and were talking about representation. I watched him negotiate, confident and professional, and felt proud. "You're amazing," I told him that night over dinner at a tiny Italian restaurant in the West Village. "I'm terrified," he admitted. "This is everything I've worked for. What if I can't deliver?" "You will. I've seen you work. You're talented and dedicated, and you don't give up even when pipes burst and ruin half your sculptures." He laughed. "Fair point." We walked back to our hotel through Washington Square Park, and Adrian pulled me down onto a bench. "I have something I want to ask you," he said, suddenly serious. My heart jumped. "Okay. My lease is up next month. My studio is tiny and expensive, and honestly, I'm barely ever there anymore because I'm always at your place. Adrian, move in with me, or let me move in with you, or let's find a new place together. I know it's fast, but Kai, I love you. I want to wake up with you every morning. I want to build a life with you." 3 months ago, this request would have sent me running. 3 months ago, I was still figuring out who I was outside of Henry's shadow. But now, sitting in a park in New York with the man I loved looking at me with hope in his eyes, the answer was easy. "Yes." His face lit up. Yeah, but I have conditions." "Name them." "We split everything equally. Rent, bills, groceries. I'm not going to be dependent on anyone ever again." "Agreed." "I keep my job at the gallery. My career is important to me. I would never ask you to quit. Your work is incredible. And we go to couples counseling, just to make sure we're communicating well and building something healthy." Adrian pulled me into his lap, kissing me thoroughly. "You're perfect. Have I told you that? Once or twice." We spent our last night in New York on the hotel room balcony, watching the city lights and planning our future. Where we would live, how we would divide the space, whether we wanted a cat or a dog or both. Normal couple things that felt extraordinary because I had never had them with Henry. "What are you thinking about?" Adrian asked, playing with my hair. "How different this is. How different you are. Different from your ex? Different from everyone. You see me, Adrian. The real me. Not the version you wish I was. That's because the real you is the best version." The flight home was delayed by 3 hours, and we spent the time people watching and making up stories about other travelers. A businessman was secretly a spy. A woman with 3 kids was actually a retired circus performer. A teenage girl reading a thick fantasy novel was plotting to take over the world. "What's our story?" Adrian asked. "2 idiots falling in love." I like it. Simple but effective. When we finally landed back home, exhausted but happy, Marcus picked us up from the airport. "So?" he demanded before we even got in the car. "How was it?" "Amazing," Adrian said. "We're moving in together," I added. Marcus whooped so loudly that several people turned to stare. "Finally! I've been waiting for you two to figure it out. When's the wedding?" "Marcus!" I felt my face heat up. "What? You're perfect together." "I'm just saying what everyone's thinking." In the back seat, Adrian took my hand and smiled. Maybe Marcus was right. Maybe we were perfect together. Or maybe we were just 2 imperfect people who fit together perfectly. We spent the next 3 weeks apartment hunting. Our requirements were specific. 2 bedrooms so Adrian could have a studio space, good natural light, pet-friendly, affordable but safe. We looked at 20 places before finding the perfect one. It was in an old converted warehouse, all exposed brick and huge windows. The 2nd bedroom was big enough for Adrian's work. The kitchen was twice the size of my current one. And best of all, it had a rooftop access where we could watch sunsets. "This is it?" I said, standing in the middle of the empty living room, sunlight streaming through the windows. "You sure?" Adrian asked. "I've never been more sure of anything." We signed the lease that afternoon. Moving day was chaos. My parents drove up to help, and I finally introduced them to Adrian properly. My dad was skeptical at first, protective of his Omega child who had just escaped a bad marriage. But after watching Adrian carefully carry my boxes and insist on taking the heaviest loads himself, my dad pulled me aside. "This one's better," he said simply. "He looks at you like you matter." My mom was less subtle. She cornered Adrian in the kitchen. "You hurt my child and I don't care how big you are. I will hunt you down." "Understood." Adrian nodded seriously. "Understood. But I won't hurt Kai. I love them too much." My mom studied him for a long moment, then smiled. "Good answer." By evening, the apartment was a disaster of boxes and furniture. But it was ours. My parents left with promises to visit soon. My sister sent a text. "He's hot. Also seems nice. Approve. Don't mess this up." That night, we collapsed on our new couch. A comfortable second-hand find that was perfect for movie nights, and ordered pizza. "Happy?" Adrian asked, pulling me against his side. "Ridiculously happy." "Good. Me too." We fell asleep right there, tangled together on the couch, surrounded by unpacked boxes and the promise of tomorrow. The first month of living together was blissful. We fell into easy routines. Adrian made coffee in the mornings while I made breakfast. I did laundry while he cleaned the apartment. We worked on our respective projects in comfortable silence, occasionally looking up to share a smile. But the second month brought challenges. Adrian got consumed by his New York exhibition preparation, working 16-hour days in his studio. Metal shavings covered the floor. The smell of welding fuel permeated the apartment, and he barely slept. I tried to be supportive, but it was hard watching someone I loved drive themselves into the ground. "Adrian, you need to rest," I said one night, finding him at 2 a.m. still working. "Can't. I have 3 more pieces to finish." "You've said that for the past week." "You're exhausted." "I'm fine." "You're not fine. You're running yourself ragged." He set down his tools with more force than necessary. "What do you want me to do, Kai? This exhibition is important. It could make my entire career. I want you to take care of yourself. What good is a successful career if you're too burned out to enjoy it?" You don't understand the pressure. Don't I? My voice rose. I spent 3 years being told I wasn't good enough, that I needed to be better, do more, try harder. I know about pressure, Adrian. And I know that killing yourself trying to be perfect isn't worth it. We stared at each other, the first real fight of our relationship crackling between us. Adrian's face crumpled. I'm scared. What if I fail? What if the exhibition is terrible and everyone realizes I'm a fraud? I crossed the room and wrapped my arms around him. You're not a fraud. You're talented and hardworking and your art moves people. But you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be you. He held me tight. I'm sorry. I've been so focused on the work that I forgot to be a good partner. You're a great partner. You're just also an artist with anxiety. We'll figure it out together. We started going to couples counseling the next week. Our therapist, Dr. Kim, was a calm beta woman who helped us develop better communication strategies. She taught us how to express needs without blame, how to listen without defensiveness, how to support each other without losing ourselves. It helped. A lot. Adrian learned to set boundaries with his work. I learned to voice my concerns before resentment built up. We both learned that loving someone didn't mean fixing all their problems. Sometimes it just meant being present while they worked through things. But our biggest challenge came from an unexpected direction. I was at the gallery one afternoon when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello. Is this Kai Nakamura? A woman's voice, professional and cold. Yes. Who is this? My name is Victoria Chun. I'm a private investigator. I need to ask you some questions about Henry Matthews. My blood went cold. What about him? There's been an accusation of financial fraud. His company is under investigation. As his spouse, ex-spouse, we're divorced. The divorce was finalized last month, correct? Yes. Then you're likely in the clear. But I still need to ask you some questions about your knowledge of his business dealings during your marriage. I spent the next hour being questioned about things I knew nothing about. Hidden accounts, falsified reports, money laundering. Henry had kept me completely separate from his work, another way to control me, to keep me dependent. When I finally hung up, my hands were shaking. Marcus found me sitting in the back office, staring at the wall. What happened? I explained everything. Marcus's expression grew darker with each word. That absolute bastard. Could this affect you legally? The investigator said probably not, since I wasn't involved in his business and we're divorced. But still, it's scary. Yeah. I called Adrian immediately. He left his studio and came straight to the gallery, pulling me into a hug the moment he walked in. I'm here. It's going to be okay. What if I get dragged into this? What if? Then we'll deal with it. Together. You're not alone, Kai. The investigation made the news 2 days later. Henry's company had been defrauding investors for years. He was arrested, charged with multiple felonies, facing serious prison time. Reporters started calling. They found my name in public divorce records and wanted comments. What did you know? Were you involved? How does it feel knowing your ex-husband is a criminal? I stopped answering my phone unless I recognized the number. Adrian became fiercely protective, screening calls, dealing with any reporters who showed up at the gallery or our apartment. The worst part was the doubt. I kept replaying our marriage in my head. How had I not known? Were there signs I missed? Was I really that oblivious? You weren't oblivious, Dr. Kim said during an emergency therapy session. He deliberately kept you in the dark. That was part of his control over you. You can't blame yourself for not seeing something he actively hid. But I was married to him for 3 years, and he was very skilled at manipulation. Give yourself grace, Kai. You were a victim too. Adrian held me that night while I cried, finally letting out all the fear and anger and betrayal I had been holding in. I feel so stupid, I whispered. You're not stupid. You're kind and trusting, and those are good things. He's the one who abused that trust. This is on him, not you. The scandal died down after a few weeks. The investigators confirmed I had no knowledge of or involvement in Henry's crimes. The divorce was already final, so I had no legal liability. But the emotional aftermath lingered. I started having nightmares. Dreams where I was still married to Henry, trapped in that penthouse, unable to leave. I would wake up gasping, and Adrian would be there, solid and real, reminding me that I was safe. Maybe we should take a break, I said one morning after a particularly bad night. This is too much to deal with while you're preparing for the exhibition. Don't even finish that sentence. Adrian cupped my face gently. We're a team, remember? Your problems are my problems. We don't run when things get hard. I don't want to be a burden. You're not a burden. You're the person I love. Let me be here for you the way you've been here for me. So I let him help. Let him hold me during bad nights. Let him make me laugh when the darkness felt too heavy. Let him love me even when I felt unlovable. And slowly I healed. By the time Adrian's New York exhibition opened, I was stronger. Not perfect, still dealing with occasional anxiety, but stronger. We flew to New York together and I watched Adrian shine. The exhibition was a massive success. Critics loved it. Collectors bought pieces for numbers that made my head spin. Adrian was being called the next big thing in contemporary art. At the after-party, surrounded by successful, important people, Adrian found me on the balcony. Hey, you okay? Yeah, just needed some air. It's overwhelming in there. He wrapped his arms around me from behind. Want to leave? It's your party. I don't care. If you want to leave, we leave. I leaned back against his chest. No, I'm okay. I'm proud of you. You deserve this. I wouldn't be here without you. You saved me, Kai. In every way a person can be saved. I turned in his arms. You saved me too. We kissed on that balcony in New York, and I knew with absolute certainty that this was my person. Not perfect. We would have more fights, more challenges, more hard days. But we would face them together. And that made all the difference. 1 year after I asked Henry for a divorce, Adrian and I stood in the same art gallery where we first met, but everything was different. The space was filled with people celebrating my first solo exhibition as a curator, a showcase of emerging Omega artists who I had discovered and nurtured over the past year. Nervous? Adrian asked, squeezing my hand. Terrified. You'll be amazing. You always are. The exhibition was my passion project. For too long, Omega artists had been overlooked, dismissed as less serious than alpha or beta artists. I wanted to change that narrative, to show the world the incredible talent that existed in the Omega community. Marcus gave the opening speech. Kai Nakamura came to me a year ago, recently divorced and looking for a fresh start. I hired them because they had great references. I kept them because they have exceptional vision. Tonight, we celebrate not just these talented artists, but also Kai's journey to becoming one of the most insightful curators I've had the privilege of working with. The room applauded, and I felt tears prick my eyes. A year ago, I thought my life was over. Now, I was standing in a gallery I helped build, surrounded by people who respected my work, holding hands with someone who loved me for exactly who I was. The evening was a success. 3 of the featured artists sold multiple pieces. A major museum reached out about a collaboration. Art bloggers and critics praised the exhibition's fresh perspective and bold curation. As the crowd thinned, my parents arrived. My mom pulled me into a tight hug. We're so proud of you, sweetheart. My dad shook Adrian's hand. You taking good care of my kid? Every day, sir. Good. Keep it up. My sister bounded over, girlfriend in tow. This is incredible, Kai. You're basically famous now. Can I get your autograph? I laughed. Shut up. But she hugged me tight and whispered, seriously though, look at you. You're happy. You're thriving. I'm so glad you left that jerk. Me too. After my family left, Adrian and I walked through the empty gallery, just the 2 of us and the art on the walls. Thank you, I said softly. For what? For believing in me. For giving me space to heal. For loving me even when I was broken. Adrian stopped walking and turned to face me. You were never broken, Kai. You were just with someone who couldn't see how complete you already were. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. My heart stopped. I wasn't planning to do this tonight. I had this whole elaborate plan for next month. But standing here, in the place where we first met, surrounded by your brilliant work, I can't wait anymore. He opened the box. Inside was a simple silver band with a small sapphire. Kai Nakamura, you are the bravest, most talented, most beautiful person I have ever met. You inspire me every single day to be better, to work harder, to love more openly. I know we said we weren't in a hurry, but I also know that I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me? I was crying, laughing, nodding all at once. Yes, yes, of course yes. Adrian slipped the ring onto my finger. It fit perfectly, and kissed me while the gallery lights sparkled around us. I love you, he whispered against my lips. I love you too. We called my parents, who screamed with excitement. My sister sent approximately 50 excited emojis. Marcus texted, "Finally! I've been waiting for this since day one." That night, lying in our bed in our apartment surrounded by our life together, I thought about the journey that brought me here. The pain of my marriage to Henry, the courage it took to leave, the fear of starting over, the joy of finding Adrian, the work of healing and growing and learning to trust again. "What are you thinking about?" Adrian murmured, half asleep. How 3 years ago, Henry called me a defective omega. How I used to believe him. Adrian propped himself up on an elbow, suddenly alert. And now I know there's nothing defective about being myself. About wanting a partner who loves me for who I am. About choosing my own happiness over someone else's expectations. Damn right. He kissed my forehead. You're perfect exactly as you are. So are you. We're perfect together. Yeah, we really are. I fell asleep that night with Adrian's arms around me, the engagement ring catching the moonlight, and my heart fuller than I ever thought possible. 6 months later, we got married in a small ceremony in the gallery, the place where our story began. Marcus officiated. My family cried happy tears. Adrian's artist friends gave speeches about how I had changed him for the better, made him softer and kinder without making him less himself. When it was time for vows, Adrian went first. Kai, you taught me that love doesn't mean losing yourself. It means finding someone who helps you become more yourself. You've supported my dreams while building your own. You've been patient with my anxieties and honest about your needs. You make me laugh every day. You make me want to be better every day. I promise to always see you, to always listen to you, and to always choose you. I love you. I was already crying by the time it was my turn. Adrian, when I left my first marriage, I thought I was done with love. I thought I had failed at relationships, that maybe I wasn't meant for partnership. Then you walked into the gallery with your portfolio and your kind eyes, and you showed me what love could be. You've given me space to heal. You've celebrated my successes and supported me through my fears. You've never tried to change me or make me smaller to fit into your life. Instead, you've expanded both our lives to make room for both our dreams. I promise to always be honest with you, to grow with you, and to love you exactly as you are. I love you. We kissed as married partners while everyone cheered, and I felt like I was exactly where I was meant to be. 2 years after that, I was promoted to head curator at the gallery. Adrian's career exploded. He was featured in major museums, invited to prestigious exhibitions, commissioned by wealthy collectors around the world. We traveled together, discovered new cities, met incredible people. We adopted a dog named Picasso who was terrible at listening but excellent at cuddling. We hosted dinner parties in our apartment where artists and curators and musicians gathered to talk and laugh late into the night. We built a life that was messy and creative and full of love. And sometimes, late at night, I would think about that moment 3 years into my marriage to Henry when I finally found the courage to say, "Let's divorce." That moment changed everything. It was the moment I chose myself. The moment I decided I deserved better. The moment I started my journey to this life. I ran into Henry once, 5 years after our divorce. He had served 2 years in prison for his financial crimes and was working as a consultant, trying to rebuild his life. He looked older, humbler, less arrogant. "Kai," he said, surprised to see me. "You look good." Thanks. How are you? Managing. I heard you got married. Congratulations. Thank you. We stood there awkwardly for a moment. I'm sorry, Henry said finally. For everything. For how I treated you. For not seeing how special you were. You deserved so much better than what I gave you. It was the apology I had needed 3 years ago but no longer required. I had moved on. I had healed. His actions no longer had power over me. I hope you find peace, Henry. I really do. I hope you're happy. I am. Very happy. And I meant it. Walking away from that encounter, I called Adrian. Hey love, how was your meeting? Good. But I just ran into Henry. Are you okay? I'm perfect. Just wanted to hear your voice. I love you. I love you too. See you at home. Home. Our home. The life we built together. The love we chose every single day. 3 years ago, Henry called me a defective Omega. Now, I knew the truth. I was never defective. I was just with someone who couldn't appreciate who I was. I was just waiting to find the person who would love me not despite my quirks and flaws and fears, but because of them. I was just waiting to find Adrian, and myself, and the courage to choose happiness. That night, Adrian and I sat on our couch with Picasso between us, watching a movie and eating takeout. It was ordinary and perfect and everything I never knew I needed. Happy? Adrian asked like he always did. Ridiculously happy, I answered like I always did. And I was.